Hey everyone, Jesse Green here. Welcome back to SavvyDentist.com and to the Savvy Dentist podcast. It's really wonderful to have your company for another episode of the show. Now, most of us want to create a practice that we love, the practice of our dreams. And if that's you, well, guess what? You are absolutely in the right place for this episode. My guest today is Keith Abraham, who is one of Australia's most sought after speakers. He's a really successful author, and his topic of passion, his topic of choice is helping entrepreneurs and business owners create businesses that they absolutely love. And in this conversation, we talk about what it takes to build the business of your dreams, what it takes to create a business that you really fall in love with again and again every single day. So you make the choice to go to it because you love it, not because you have to. And in this conversation, we talk about creating velocity in your business and how to level up your leadership and how to be strategic in your thinking and a whole lot more. And one of the things that Keith has shared with us, which I think is a really wonderful resource, is the 12 questions to help you build the business of your dreams. So we're going to give you the link to that in the show notes. So make sure you go and grab that too and do the exercises off the back of this episode. This episode, as I said, is jam-packed with goodies, jam-packed with practical advice, jam-packed with strategies that are going to help you take your business to the next level of success, whatever that means for you. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different goals. But whatever those goals are for you, I want to make sure you achieve them. And this podcast is going to be a really important stepping stone to help you do just that. So without any further ado, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Keith Abraham as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Keith, thanks so much for taking the time to come and hang out with us on the podcast. Join us all the way from Brisbane. How's things in your world, mate?
Absolutely unbelievably fantastic, buddy. It's been a really, I don't know about your listeners, but it's been a really quick start year for me. It's just been like traveling at Mach 1 with my hair on fire. Let's face it, I don't have too much hair to be catching on fire. So it's been a really quick start to the year. It's just been amazing. And yeah, it's been good. And can you believe, we're sort of first 3 months, 4 months have vanished in front of us.
It's amazing. And it's really funny because it seems like time speeds up. I know it doesn't. I know that's just the feeling. But why is it you think that this year has perhaps started the way it has?
I think there's been I know with my clients, there's been 2024 was a real fundamental, foundational year for them. They were getting their stuff together, so to speak. And there's just this opportunity to capitalize on what's going on. And there's the opportunity to really sort of capitalize and dig themselves out of whatever happened during the pandemic. So people are forward facing at the moment. And look, and let's face it, there's a whole stack of uncertainties in the world, but I always come back to that lovely quote from, I've been doing this now for 29 years. One of my clients is Toyota globally, and I've worked with them for 27 of the 29 years. And the one thing they always say is control the controllables. And in essence, the only thing I can control is two things: how I react and how I respond. I can't control what's going to go on in the US. I can't control what's going to go on in the Australian government. I can't control what's going to happen to the dollar. I can just control how I react and how I respond. And I think for everybody who runs a small business, that's the philosophy that you've got to have. You've got to be not thinking about all the things you can't do, but thinking about the things you can do.
That's a really wonderful segue into the conversation, because we are certainly in the midst of some stuff happening around the world, stuff happening at home, elections, whatever else, all the stuff that we can't control, as you say.
Correct.
And yet when I happen to turn on the news, happen to kind of log on to Facebook and see what's going on, it feels like people get caught up worrying about those uncontrollables. And I guess before we say control the controllables, why is it that we get caught up in the noise? Why is it we get caught up in those weeds so that we can maybe adjust behaviors? What I'm trying to realize is, why are we caught up? What can we do about it to refocus elsewhere?
Well, a couple of things. The reason why people get caught up in it is they're focused on the wrong things. You have to starve your distractions and feed your focus. The challenge is with most people is they don't know what their focus is. So, my area of expertise is goal achievement. For the last 29 years, I've traveled the world helping people to achieve their goals faster, easier, sooner. And how you starve your distractions. Now, what's a distraction? An election, the news, something on Facebook, somebody taking you down a dry gully. All of those things are a distraction if you don't have a focus. If you're not in this corridor of clarity rather than the chasm of confusion, you need to have this absolute clarity about what's important, what matters, and what's going to make a difference to you. And that comes back to being crystal clear on the goal.
Yeah.
Being absolutely, and have a rock solid plan on how you're going to achieve it. And more importantly, start with how you want to feel. Is it too soon to get into some teachables?
Oh, mate, you go.
Here's the challenge for a lot of people, Jesse, is that lots of people say, I don't know my why. And here's what I say to people is, you don't need a why. Why's too hard. You got to go and sit on a rock in the middle of a rainforest for 2 weeks to work out your why. I've spent 9 years of research, 4 years of development working with a PhD in psychometric testing and a PhD in statistical analysis to understand that of the 135 different emotions you can experience as an adult, 64 of them are positive and 8 of them come down to what I call goal driver. Because the one thing that I've been so curious about understanding is, well, how do we get people from point A to point B faster, easier, and sooner? Because what tends to happen, Jesse, is this, is that people go from point A to point B like this.
Yeah, squiggly.
That's what tends to happen. But really what we need for people to do is to ask this one question. The one question, and let's just talk about business just for a moment, because most of your listeners have got a dental practice. They want to start to leverage themselves. They want to start to get off the tools, so to speak, and start to be able to take their IP, their expertise, and expand it, and to be able to leverage that and to build a lifestyle. And so the one thing we say to people is the first thing that'll work out is how you want to feel.
Yeah.
Because we are driven, we are creatures that are driven by emotions. And so once people understand how you want to feel, so the 8 goal drivers, by the way, and we'll put something in the show notes so people can go and do their goal driver profile. Of the 8 drivers, people want to feel successful.
Mm-hmm.
People want to feel purposeful. People want to feel inspired. People want to feel happy. People want to feel organized. People want to feel respected. People want to feel confident, and people want to feel relaxed. And if we look at those 8, if that's what emotionally drives people, what do people really want? That's how they want to feel. What do they really want? For the people who are driven to feel successful, they're driven by progress. For the people who want to feel purposeful, they're driven by legacy. For people who want to feel inspired, they're driven by impact on others. For people who want to feel happy, it's about them finding joy and delivering joy to others. For people who want to feel organized, it's about control. For people who want to feel respected, it's about mastery, about being the best at what they do.
Yep.
For people who want to be confident, they are driven, they want to feel confident, but they're driven in regards to self-love. They want to fall back in love with themselves.
Yeah.
And for the people who want to feel relaxed, for them, it's about them feeling like they're in flow, that their life is becoming more and more effortless. And so if we look at those, and if you're listening to this, driving in the car to work, here's what I want you to think a little bit about, is about your business. How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel successful? Do you want to feel purposeful, inspired, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep.
And then what we say to people is, okay, what goal do you need to achieve to be able to feel that?
Yeah.
What goal do you need to achieve to be able to feel, let's say it's, I want to feel successful. Great. So what goal do you need to feel for you to feel successful? Then what we say to people is why, but not why as in what's your why. Here is, why is that so important to you? And more importantly there, Jesse, this is about giving them tell me 5 reasons why that's so important, because unless you've got 5 reasons why, any excuse will do. Too hot, too cold, too many, too few, too little, too much. It's the government, Keith. It's COVID. It's
whatever.
Any excuse will do. And then the final, and by the way, this last one is the one that most people never think about. Now, I know you do, and I know what you teach in the programs you run. And I know this is you for the people in your community, is the question we don't often ask is who? What we tend to ask, and I'm guilty of this 10 years ago, I go, how do I do this? Wrong question.
Yeah.
The question should be, who can help me? Who can help me do this? See, people go, oh, I'll go and do this myself. Why would you waste days, hours, weeks, and months learning somewhere where I can just go to someone and go, can you do this for me? Yes, I can. How much? What's it going to take? They're going to do it in a third of the time because that's their wheelhouse. That all makes sense?
Makes perfect sense. What I really love about the who, not how, is it's the same three letters, right? But two totally different outcomes, two totally different responses.
Yeah. And one of the things that most people don't get around this is that they're not looking for those people they can collaborate with and connect with. And think about what a who is. A who is this podcast.
Yeah.
A who is you for your community. A who is me when I stand up in front of an audience. A who is a book. A who can be an audio, could be a YouTube, could be a document that you read, a worksheet. And so what tends to happen is we're not looking at that. A classic example, I've got someone in my business at the moment. I get that I have to utilize AI to make myself more effective and more efficient. I'm not going to go and do a whole stack of research and go down rabbit holes to work out what's the best app to do this and what's the best AI tool to do that. I just had someone come in and do a complete audit and said, here's my whole business. Here's all the whole team. These are all the tasks that we do. These are all the things. And by the way, she drove that conversation.
Yeah, wow.
And then it's just come back with a 30-page strategy document saying, this is what we can do. This is going to take an hour to do. This is what we're going to do before. This is what we're going to do now. And this is what we're going to do in the future. And I'm going, done.
Isn't it amazing? So it's really interesting because this is probably a very simple concept to understand, but harder to actually implement. And I've been guilty of the how do I do it as well. Up until probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was always the guy figuring out how to do stuff. And you're right, it was a transition to get to the who. The thing that we notice with a lot of, I suppose, dentists being quite, I want to use the word engineering types and all this, their mind naturally goes to how. That's their natural.
That's their default, 100%.
That's their default, right? How do you break that habit of getting out of that default pattern and going, okay, rather than how, not how, let's rearrange those letters and get to who? What's that transition like from how to who?
The one question is this a $100 job or a $1,000 job?
Yeah.
Is this a $100 an hour job? Is this a $1,000 an hour job?
Yeah.
Because I want to work on high payoff activities. And the second thing around this is that I think people in business have got to understand what's the best role for them. See, what tends to happen with people in business, and once again, guilty of this, you learn this as you go through, is, by the way, I can do everything in my business. I can answer emails, I can do the marketing, I can write copy, I can do it all. But I worked out a long time ago, the 3 best things that I can do in my business is I'm the very, very best person in my business to stand up and present. I'm not the best person in the world. I'm working on that. But I'm the best person to stand up and present. I'm the best person to create content. And I'm the best person to convert opportunities.
Yeah.
I'm the best person to do that. So I have got a team of people around me, onshore, offshore, who just do everything else. And that helps me to accelerate. Once again, I come back to velocity. What's velocity? If you want to create unstoppable velocity in your business, velocity is about 3 things: direction, focus, speed. So I'm looking to find ways to speed me up. I'm looking to have an intensity of focus on what's important, what matters, and what's going to make a difference. And I'm always consistently coming back to what's my true north, what's the direction.
I think the beauty of this as well, Keith, is that life by design, business by design concept.
Yes.
How do you build a business that you really love? So many people end up falling into the trap of building a business they come to hate. And
Yes.
it's a tragedy. It really upsets me when I see that occur. And of course, it's not fatal. It can be fixed. I made the mistake of selling a business that I didn't think could be fixed. And if I'd been a bit smarter and a bit wiser, I could have fixed it. But that's okay. We live and learn. And I guess the question I wanted to ask you then is just taking that concept of life by design or business by design, or the bits that you really love, however you want to wrap that up. What else is going to go into building a life that you love or a business that you love? We've spoken about focusing on your true north, doing the things that you're only good at, making sure that, in your case, you're the person who presents and creates content. That's a business that you love, right? And that's awesome. For the audience listening here, how do they start that process of designing their future by intent?
So a couple of things here. Firstly, every business owner wants 4 things. Regardless of whether you're a dentist, accountant, an engineer, a corner store, whatever it is, you want 4 things. You design out 4 things. You want to grow your profit and grow your revenue. The second is you want to make sure your business is worth something when you go to sell it. The third is that you want to love it immensely or enjoy it intensely. And the fourth is you want to provide a great lifestyle for you and your family.
Yep.
To do that, you have to stop and think about what I call creating the business of your dreams. And this is something I learned through a set of circumstances which shouldn't have really been a teachable moment, but it was.
That's life.
I'm in beautiful downtown Perth. I'm on the 33rd floor of this building overlooking the Swan River. And I've got 10 of Australia's best financial planners sitting around the room. This is like probably about 22 years ago.
Okay. Early 2000s, right?
Yeah. And I've been brought in to help these, and they're all guys, they're all blokes, and to take their business to the next level. They're already the best of the best. How do they become better then, or not get stuck in the comfort zone? So I am doing my thing, and here's what I've experienced. I've presented to more than 1.7 million people or in 43 different countries. And if you've got some negative people in the room, I call them huffers, by the way. And why do I call them huffers? Because they're normally the people who've got their arms crossed, who've got their legs crossed, and every time you say something, they go, oh, bullshit, oh, tosser. And so in a group of 100 people, I never see them. I'm looking for the lighthouses. But when there's 10, and this guy's sitting right at the corner of the head of the table here, and I won't use his name, I'm just going to call him Rick, spelt with a silent P. And so Rick is huffing and puffing all day. So I'm doing my, and obviously I have, being a seasoned presenter, I have ways to minimize negative people and cut them out of conversations and do all that sort of stuff without them really knowing. Anyway, get to the end of the day. And the client comes up and he says, oh, wow, Keith, it's been amazing. The feedback we had, everyone has had a fabulous time. And I go, well, not everybody's had a fabulous time. Oh, Rick, he's not had a fabulous time. I have aggravated him. I have been like sand in the oyster for him. And so as extroverted as I seem here, I'm actually quite introverted. So when a client says, would you like to come out for dinner? I normally say no, because I like doing my own thing. That night I was catching the red eye, the midnight flight from Perth back to Brisbane.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've got to go and have dinner. So I'll go and have dinner. They asked me, I'll go and have dinner. So who do you think I sit alongside for dinner?
Oh, not Rick.
Oh, Rick. And Rick's had a few VB tranquilizers. He is suitably motivated. He is fired up, pumped up, jacked up, and revved up. And he sort of comes and sits down, he plonks his beer on the table and says, what gives you the right to tell me how to build my financial planning business? He said, have you ever been a financial planner? I said, no, Rick, I haven't. He said, I thought so. And in the back of my mind, I thought, it is on Donkey Kong.
Here we go.
Here we go. Now, you got to understand, just I've been paid.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be nice to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
And so he said, all that stuff you're talking about is all BS and it wouldn't work in my business and blah, blah, blah. I had 20 years experience and ... And it let him blow off all this steam. And I've gone, I'm not copping this anymore because I'm not validating his view of where he's at. And I said, Rick, can I ask you a few questions? And he said, yeah, sure, shoot. And I said, I just want to clarify a couple of things before I actually ask you the real question. He said, yeah. And I've gone, okay, so what I've heard today is that you're not making as much money as you used to. Yeah, I might have said that, yeah. Well, what's your point? I said, no, I haven't finished yet. I said, I also overheard that you said you don't get your Wednesday afternoon game of golf anymore because you're so busy being at work. Yeah, well, yeah. Where are you going with this? I said, oh, hold on. And I said, you also said that you got a bit of a disconnect with your family because you're always at work. I might have said that. What's your point? And I said, no, let them just be patient, mate. And I said, I also overheard that you said because you're working so much, your health and fitness has gone out the door and you're 10 kilos overweight, but it looks more like 15, but let's call it 10. And he's gone, what's your point with all this? I said, here's my question, Rick. How long have you been doing this for? He said, I've been doing this for 20 years. And I said, how dumb are you? And his eyes bulged up and he arced up a little bit. He said, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, I reckon 20 years is too long a period of time to not have the business of your dreams. 20 years is too long a time not to move from being the apprentice to being the master. And I said, you know, the problem you have, Rick, and of course everyone loves it when you start off with that, the problem with you, Rick, is you don't have the business of your dreams. I'd never used that language ever before. I don't know where it came from. And I said, you've been doing this for 20 years, but it sounds more like it's 1 year's experience repeated 20 times. And with that, he picked up his beer and his steak and he went and sat somewhere else. And I thought, success. I got in the car, I went back to the airport, On the way back to the airport, I thought, oh, you know what, I've carved him up. I've put him in his place. I've sat him down. I've given him a lesson. I've tuned him up. And then I had this epiphany. And the epiphany was, oh my dear, I don't have the business of my dreams. I've been doing this now for 8 or 9 years, and I don't have the business of my dreams. I'm a little bit overweight. Let's face it, I'm a lot overweight. I've never had a disconnect with my wife and my kids, so that was a blessing. I worked too hard for the money. I was just so driven that I was just so busy being busy that I wasn't making progress. And rather than sleeping on the plane on the way back, I wrote down 12 questions. And if you'd like, I'm happy to share those 12 questions with your audience to really get them clear on, well, if I'm going to have the business of my dreams, and there's 12 questions asked, you know, like in the business of your dreams, how much money are you making? How much money are you keeping? In the business of your dreams, what are the only 3 roles that you do? In the business of your dreams, how many locations do you have? In the business of your dreams, how do you want to feel every day?
Yeah.
So I just put this together, which gave me such great clarity to then identify what my true north was. And to then just like say, if that's the what and the how I want to feel, and now I've got these reasons around these 4 things that I want to, you know, as I said before, the 4 desires of anybody in business, I then started to work out who can help me do it.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm curious to ask, I have to ask about Rick. Did you send him the 12 questions afterwards?
Well, you want to know part 2 of the story? So
Yeah,
I'm thinking, I've never seen Rick ever again.
Yeah, I'm thinking in that region.
About a month later, I'm running a workshop for another organization, like an insurer, one of their partners. And who turns up? And it's old Rick. And he's walked straight up to me. I've gone, this is going to be a really interesting guy. Firstly, what the hell is he? He knows I'm speaking. Like, why would he turn up? Yeah. So he turns up and he goes, I just want to say thank you.
Oh, wow. Nice.
He said, the kick in the backside that you gave me pissed me off so much. And it pissed me off so much because it was so right.
Yeah.
Because what's that lovely quote? Every upset's an opportunity to know the truth. And so it was just this. He must have stewed on it and everything. By the way, he became a client. He came to that program, which was like about a 4-month program. And he was just a different guy because all of a sudden he said, oh, I need to fall back in love with it. And I think you said that before, you know, you sold a business way too early because you felt that in love with it.
Yeah.
The thing that we have to do as business owners is fall back in love with it. The way you fall back in love with it is create what you really want. Stop settling for what you're getting. Start getting really crystal clear on what you deserve.
I really like that thought as well, mate. I have to share a quick little epiphany I had. Did some personal work last year working with, how would I describe her? Friend and colleague, but also someone. Have you ever had that experience, Keith, where someone can look past your public persona and they look right inside your soul? Yeah, she looks right inside my soul and she just gave me this little gem. And the consequence of that has been profound and enormous. And I'll share it with you really quickly. And that is because I think a lot of people fall into this trap as well. And that is that oftentimes I was doing things in my business because I felt obliged to, had to, duty bound, whatever it was.
Yes.
And I was tying myself in knots because of what I thought other people needed or expected from me.
Yes.
And late last year, I just made this decision that, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. And, you know, whatever the consequences are is what they are. But I have to tell you, I feel so much lighter and happier as a result of that. And I think that's probably the point that I needed to get to. Is a kick in the pants like you gave Rick. It's probably not as direct as the one you gave Rick. I guess the reason I'm sharing that story is because sometimes it takes, like you said, that upset is the opportunity that we need to capitalize on. Or even if it's desirable, how do you manufacture that? If you can manufacture,
you've got to be open to coaching.
Yeah.
You've got to be open to mentoring. You know, like the reason why most people don't have the business of their dreams, firstly, they haven't articulated it. Secondly, they don't have a coach and a mentor. If you want to slow things down, try and do it by yourself. Be a tightwad and not invest in yourself and not invest. I have 2 coaches. I have one personally. So I have a lady very similar to what you have as well, where I just talk about where I'm at personally, how I'm feeling and what's slowing me down, what's occupying my mind. I have a guy that I catch up with once, a wise old sage that I catch up with once a month, and just to talk business. And then I belong to a forum group of 7 of us. There's 7 of us in this group, and we meet every quarter for 3 days, and we talk about life, we talk about business, and we talk about, and that's an investment because I take 3 days out of my calendar. I turn away work. I would say get on a plane and go. Once a year we go overseas, and every other time we go to a different location around Australia and New Zealand for that matter as well. And I invest in that because I know that you've got to take a step back to be able to run forward. And you've got to have a reset and a recalibrate to be able to do that. So the answer to your question is you've got to invest in mentors and coaches. Because if you don't, I love that quote, if you don't invest time, energy and money in yourself, you're a poor judge of good investment. It bewilders me, it befuddles me, to be perfectly honest. When people go, I want this type of business. Great. What are you prepared to invest in to get it? Are you prepared to invest in a coach for a couple of grand a month or $5,000 a month to help you get there? Oh, I don't know if I'd do that. Well, you're not serious then. Like you want $1 million business and yet you don't want to spend a couple of grand a month to get it. Are you serious? And especially if we're talking about dentists now, how much does a degree cost this year? And all that does is it gets you the ability to work on people and with people. And I'm obviously simplifying this, but they give you no business expertise. No. And yet what we know is in 5 years that everybody who comes out of a dental school, 80% of them will be working in their own business or a business inside a business.
You've touched on a lot of stuff there. And again, I could probably speak with you for 3 days just on that one topic. I'm going to shift gear if we can for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know that you've got so much we could talk about and I want to make sure I go broad if I can. I want to talk a little bit about investing in yourself, but in terms of specific skills, specific qualities that you see leaders needing to develop, particularly for those that want to get off the tools. And so the work that we do, there's some foundational things I think for every business that you got to get right. But then if you want to get off the tools, it's a like new level, new devil kind of routine, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that journey of getting the foundations to the mastery piece. What's that look like you've worked with lots of different companies, lots of different industries, but business to me is business is business is business. And I'm curious to get your take on that because I think there's something in there. Like we're talking about investing in coaches, we're talking about investing in business development, all those sorts of things. And I just want to get a little bit granular about me, the person driving the bus. Who do I need to be? What do I need to become in this journey?
So first thing, mindset shift.
Yeah.
Stop thinking of yourself as a dentist running a business and start thinking of yourself as a business person running a dentist practice. That's the first thing.
I actually just feel like the clouds have parted and the sun's down and we're going to have
but that's the truth. The work I do with people. So when I work with financial planners or more, anybody who's in business for themselves, the first thing we say is you have to become a business person running a financial advice practice, not a financial advisor running a business.
Yep.
The second thing is you have to have absolute clarity of direction. You really need to be crystal clear on what is the business of your dream. And then you need to work it back and say, what do we need to achieve this year? And using my 4-part process there. That's the simple. And people go, I need to have a big business. Like, no. What you need to have is clarity. Because with clarity comes confidence. With confidence comes certainty. With certainty comes consistency. The next is people. So you got to have purpose. You got to have a plan. Let's talk people. What's that lovely quote? He or she who thinketh they're a leader and has no one following them is just out taking a walk. You've got to have people. And people go, oh, my people drive me crazy. And you know the reason why your people drive you crazy? They're the wrong people. Or you haven't developed them. People go, I don't want to train them because they might leave. Well, what's the worst thing? What if you don't train them and they stay? That's that piece of the puzzle. And you got to sell. Everybody wants to hook their wagon to someone who's going someplace. I get that in a team of maybe 20 or 30, you're going to have some people who are going to turn up and it's not their passion. It's a paycheck. And that's okay because what I say to people when we work, in organizations, not everyone's going to be as passionate as you about the business, whether it be in a corporate or in your own business. But what you've got to do is you've got to help your people to work out where they sit. So I say that everybody fits into 2 categories, Jesse. One is you're either passionate about what you do and you earn an income from it. That's what the category you and I are in. Or you go and earn an income so you can pursue your passion.
Yeah.
So if you're into snowboarding and working in the dentist practice is giving the money you need to go and do that, fabulous, great, excellent, super, do that. But the challenge that most people have is it's neither either. They exist and they endure. They don't enjoy.
Wow.
They're not excited. Because, if you think of it, people's lives are made up of four things. There are things in your life that you love to do. There are things in your life that you like to do. There are things in your life that you have to do. There are things in your life that you hate to do. Now, if your life or your business is giving you all the things that you hate to do and all the things that you have to do, let me give you a highly technical term. Your life is shitty. So
really shitty.
yeah. And I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses here, because there are some things in my business that I have to do because I'm the person that needs to do them at this point of time until I find someone who can do them. But if your life is totally consumed by all the have to do's and hates to do, you have not got the business of your dreams. Now, so we talk about people. And the next is processes. What are your systems and processes in place that give you consistency and efficiencies to help you become more effective, that moves the boat forward, that speeds up? And then, of course, what are you doing to build a profile in your community to attract your patients, your clients? What are you doing to build your positioning to attract a great people who hear about you and go, I want to work for that person? And, they're the fundamentals that you got to work on. And then, of course, what underpins all that is how do we make our business profitable? What are we doing to do that? And then, of course, how do we produce an experience? So if you talk about the business, let's face it, dentistry is a grudge purchase. Nobody's flocking to the dentist. So it has to be an experience. It has to be this experience that people go, you know what, I know I don't want to go there, but every time I go there, it's such a good experience. They remember my name and they stay in touch with me and they, but it has to be not, see, McDonald's have got a wonderful process on how to manufacture hamburgers the same way anywhere in the world. Is it the best hamburger in the world? No. But they've got a process to doing that. But what I often say about an organisation like McDonald's is it's process devoid of personality.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What people have to do in their businesses is to create a process that is surrounded by personality.
Yeah, systemize and humanize, right?
Correct.
Yeah. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about McDonald's as well. And on lots of levels, I admire McDonald's and what they've achieved. And I think they're a fantastic organization. And there's some things that you wouldn't want to emulate in a dental practice. And I think part of it is when you're flipping burgers and making fries, whatever, you're kind of using arms and legs and physical labor. And it's very transactional. You get your burger, you know what you get, you pay your money. And dentistry, like all service business, is very relational. And so I think that experience piece is absolutely critical. And just on that point around creating experiences consistently, I think where my mind is going to is how do you know what the right level of systemization is? Because one of the things with McDonald's is it's systemized to the nth degree. And how do you kind of make that judgment of how much personality, how much system? Too much personality, no system becomes inconsistent, great one day, rubbish the next. Too much system becomes a robotic formulaic process. And I'm just trying to get your perspective on that balance of systemizing and humanizing, because I think you're right. Systems and personality go hand in glove. But to me, it's like a mixing desk. How much of each?
Yeah, good question. My take on this is think of it like two rails of a train track. Think about the two rails of a train track. One is systems and standards. The second is experience and the expertise, what people deliver. Obviously you've got to have great expertise, but it's got to be a great experience. And so one of the things that I'd say to answer this question is, firstly, I think dentists need to look outside of their industry to say, what are people doing to create a great experience? And how would I apply that same technique or process or that personality to my business? The second is they really should look at the four parts of the experience. What you do before, what you do during, what you do after, and what you do forever after. And so for a lot of people in dentistry, I would imagine it's like, okay, people, we send them a reminder text message. They're greeted by the receptionist. We send them their receipt and maybe we ask them to fill in the net promoter score. And then we just stay in touch with them, electronically. And you go, okay, well, everybody does that. I mean,
Yeah.
where I get my car service, they do that. So what are you going to do that's just going to wow people? So I think the first thing is think about the systems and the standards as the consistency. Because let's face it, when somebody buys a McDonald's franchise, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
You're going to make money. You buy 3 of them, you retire, because they're going to put a manager in to run the 3 of them.
Yeah.
And because they don't want to give money back, they want to make sure you're successful, so they systemize everything. What you have to then start to go is, okay, how do I now, over the top of this, create an experience? And that's really around, so once you've got all the steps of your system and your process written down, then on this other rail, you go, how do we make that an experience?
Yeah.
So rather than sending a text message, could we do something else? What would we do? Could we, is there something we can celebrate? And I think this is where, firstly, the owner has to just look further afield. A great book to read around this is the whole Ritz-Carlton story.
Oh, yeah.
Just the philosophy. We stayed in the Ritz-Carlton in Budapest last year. I was doing 1,500 people spoke in Budapest. And before we walked through the door, the concierge knew our name.
Wow.
So obviously the guy who got the bags out of the car, he said, the guy with the grey hair and the attractive woman coming through, that's Keith and Christine Abraham. Now, he didn't ask my name, but he was astute enough to look at my luggage.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my name tag on my luggage, but I have on my Toomey, I have KA.
Yeah.
So I'm probably the only KA walking in that day. So he's gone, who's booking into, oh, okay, it was probably Mr. Abraham.
Wow.
And so by the time I've got in there, he's already, well, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Abraham. Let me introduce you to Mary over here. Mary's going to check you in and da-da-da-da-da. And it was just effortless and seamless. And everybody in that hotel knew our name. How the hell did everyone know? Because once again, their philosophy is we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. And so they've taken this concept of experience and built a process around it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Keith, I've got a question for you. Actually, I've got a few hundred questions for you, but I'll keep it to this last question. It ties into the Ritz-Carlton experience because what you've just described there is remarkable service. And it's remarkable because you're remarking on it, right? You're certainly talking about it.
I'm sharing that story. Every experience has to be shareable.
Totally, right? Totally. Sure. And where I'm going with that is for some people listening to this, they're probably going, wow, that's an amazing experience. And I'm going to learn from Ritz-Carlton. I'll go and stay there and I'll bribe the doorman to tell me what he does or whatever it is. The question I want to ask though is, what's a good first step? Because Ritz-Carlton have been at that game for a while. They've got that honed. They've got it perfected.
So here's the first step. And I'll give you a couple of steps. But here's the first step. How do we want our customers, our clients, our patients to feel? Start there. What's that lovely quote? People may forget what you said, people may forget what you did, but they'll never ever forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Start with how you want your customers to feel. Start there. And then say, what do we have to do vastly different to 10x our service experience so it is memorable for all the right reasons, so that it is renowned not just in our industry, but someone from Harvard Business School would want to come along and write about it. Yeah. Start there.
Yeah.
Start there.
Okay. Awesome. Keith, there's so many things we could talk about till the cows come home.
Maybe another time.
Oh, mate, I hope so. I hope so. And thank you for the kind offer of those 12 questions as well, about designing your dream business, your dream life. And we'll put those in the show notes for everyone. So team, for those of you listening along, we'll make sure we get those to you. And I think that's going to be not just a worthwhile exercise. I think it's a critical exercise to do because life's too short to build a business you don't love. And ultimately, you want to be doing this and enjoying it and sticking at it for the long term if that's what you want to do. So thank you for that generous offer, Keith. We'll certainly avail ourselves of that and put that in the show notes. Mate, before we wrap up, two things. I just want to say you're a scholar and a gentleman, and I really appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you. You know, I've seen your work now for years, and when you get to meet people, sometimes what you see online and what you experience is not always the same. But I just want to say I've enjoyed this immensely, and so you've been a very gracious and generous guest. So thank you for living up to exceeding all that you put out there.
Thank you.
And lastly, mate, any final words you want to leave people with as we wrap up?
The thing I'd say to everybody is be the person that invests in yourself. There have been a number of quotes that have driven me in my business. The first quote that drove me was, the speed of the business is the speed of its leader. So the faster I travel, the quicker my business goes and grows.
Yep.
The second, which I got this quote about 2 years ago and it's been on my mind ever since, is the magic I'm seeking is in the work I'm avoiding.
Ooh.
So often what I think about is it's not so much the work in the business or the outreach or whatever it might be, but it's the work on myself.
Yeah.
So I'd leave that with people, and look, no doubt you'll put in my website address. Is there something I can help people with from a speaking at an event or something like that? Then absolutely happy to come along and engage, enthuse and energize your people and get them on board that process.
Mate, that'd be amazing. Keith, you're a good man. Thank you once again. Appreciate you. And let's catch up again soon because I've got 101 more questions ready for you.
Yeah, love their answer, mate. It's been a delight chatting with you. And look, and thanks very much for the opportunity. It just seems like, I think always that an interview needs to sound like a conversation rather than a series of questions. And we've had a great conversation today.
We have indeed. Thank you, mate. You're a good man.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hey everyone, it's Jesse here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you're looking for some more tools, some more insights, some more inspiration to help you create a practice that you love, as well as a life that you love, well, head across to savvydentist.com and check out all the goodies that we have there waiting for you right now.